Good afternoon from the PPL Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania. It's the Midwest Regional of the NCAA tournament, the Quinnipiac Bobcats and the Minnesota-Duluth Bulldogs. Alongside Kyle Levasseur, I'm MJ Baird. Kyle, the regional championships tonight, a spot in the Frozen Four on the line, and it's sure to be a good one.
MJ, I'll put it simply. The winner moves on to the Frozen Four. For Quinnipiac, they're looking for their third Frozen Four in program history. They made it to their first in the 2012-13 season, and then 3 years ago, 2015-16. Now it's 3 years later, and they're looking for their third. On the other hand, Minnesota-Duluth, the reigning national champions, are looking for their third Frozen Four appearance in the last 3 years. Clearly a big difference, but two of the perennial powerhouses in college hockey, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. Neither team has played each other throughout their program's history, and it should be an exciting one tonight.
You know what they say, good things come in threes. One of those threes will come true, the other will not. Quickly, how these two teams got here, Kyle. Yesterday was the regional semifinals, Minnesota-Duluth taking on Bowling Green, and that wasn't easy for the Bulldogs.
A 2-1 win coming back in the third period for Minnesota-Duluth and then putting the nail in the coffin in overtime. I was extremely impressed by their poise. They won last season in the opening round as well in overtime, and it just seemed like once they scored that tying goal, it was their game.
And then as for Quinnipiac, they took a 2-0 lead into the third period against Arizona State, but it wasn't an easy final 20.
A completely different story than the Bulldogs. While the Bulldogs were poised, the Bobcats were on pins and needles after they gave up that first goal to Arizona State. Luckily for them, they get bailed out with that 5-minute major penalty. And if they don't get that penalty, MJ, I don't think they win that game. Luckily for them, they are able to capitalize on that, and Arizona State didn't really have a chance to score at the end of the game.
All right, so for more on this regional final, we'll send it down to first men's ice hockey beat reporter Jonathan Banks with more on the Bobcats.
All right, guys, my keys to the game for Quinnipiac, who survived in advance last night against Arizona State. My first one, play a full 60. Quinnipiac dominated in the early goings of this game and for most of the second period, but the third period was all Arizona State, and Quinnipiac, a team in this stage of the tournament, they got to play a full 60 minutes, really forecheck hard and not run out of gas. They have a lot of players logging a lot of minutes because they do run 4 lines deep. So this Quinnipiac team needs to be skating hard for all 16 minutes, or Arizona State, like we saw last night, they almost tied the game up at the end of the game, which goes to my next point, which is goaltending play. Andrew Shortridge all year long has been arguably the best goaltender in the country. He's nominated for the Mike Richter Award, given to the best goalie in the nation. So for that, Shortridge needs to stand on his head, and if Quinnipiac cannot play a full 16 minutes, which is something they need to do, especially playing against the reigning national champions in Minnesota-Duluth, Shortridge has to be able to stand on his head and steal a game for Quinnipiac. If they have lapses of concentration or they're giving up a lot of penalties and need to go on the penalty kill, Shortridge is going to have to come up big. I know goaltending is something we've talked about all year, but it really is the most important position in hockey because goaltenders can steal you games, and in the case of Andrew Shortridge, goaltenders can win you national championships. Speaking of national championships, I just alluded to Minnesota-Duluth winning it last year. For more on that team from Minnesota, here's Tom Krasnowski.
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm here in front of the team store. It's quiet now. It's going to be hopping before long. And if Minnesota-Duluth fans want to pick up their championship attire, a couple of things are going to have to go right for them in this game. Offensively, the Bulldogs play a far different game than the Bobcats do. They're a little bit more conservative. They average less shots on goal game, but they don't have quite as much star power, but they average great scoring depth. 6 players on their team have over 20 points in the season, so anybody can score. Rand Pecknold has said this is a team that can roll 4 lines. Defensively, the Bulldogs also known for their stifling defensive effort. 3 NHL draft picks will dress today. But the real key, as Rand Pecknold has said, is the goaltending. Hunter Shepard is a Mike Richter Award finalist. He steals games for Duluth. He's done it for 2 years running. He was a big part of the national championship team last year. But the key, according to head coach Scott Sandelin, is going to be lying on special teams. You've heard from Quinnipiac. You've heard from Minnesota-Duluth. Now let's send it back up to MJ Baird and Kyle Levasseur for some final thoughts.
All right, there's your expert analysis. Let's hear from Kyle, too. Predictions, what do you got?
MJ, I'm blown away that this team has a chance to reach the Frozen Four, where at the start of the year they're coming off a losing season. I think they get to Buffalo with a 3-2 win tonight against Minnesota-Duluth. They just can't play the way they did in that third period. I think Quinnipiac is the better team, and they move on to Buffalo.
All right, you can catch all the action streaming online on ESPNU, as well as you can follow all our Q30 content on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Q30 Sports, as well as our website, Q30TV.com. For Kyle Levasseur, Jonathan Banks, and Tom Krasnowski, I'm MJ Baird. Thanks for watching.